Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's office hours. Joining us today, as always, is my counterpart, Veronica Boudreau, Customer Relationship Manager Extraordinaire. She's always faithfully on the sidelines, keeping this ship staying on its course. And for that, Veronica, I am very grateful.
Thank you, Adam. You're the one kind of sailing the ship, so right back at you.
Well, in today's session, we're going to focus on report field attributes. It's a feature that's kind of designed to give you greater flexibility and control when configuring a report. So within ISI platform, the discussion will be to cover what these attributes do, how they influence the report data and presentation, and then recommended best practices for effective use. Okay. Now, before I dive into that portion of today's session, let's just go over the standard kind of webinar rules that we always do every week. So, as always, there's going to be time for Q&A following the presentation where you can ask questions regarding today's topic or our application in general. So if you have any other questions besides the one that's being discussed, you can ask me then. However, when I lost my train of thought. I turn off the chat section, so go ahead and use the Q&A portion of the product if you'd rather ask questions there rather than put them in the chat. And the reason for that is that it just kind of keeps them all solidified. Veronica will be actually monitoring that section of the Q&A, and if she sees anything come up that you might be asking, she's going to just jump in and say, hey, Adam, they actually had a great question. Why don't you go ahead and answer this? And it's great because it's kind of hard to manage both doing in presentation and looking at those questions. Secondly, once the presentation is over, I'm going to allow you guys to unmute yourself. I just ask that you use the hand raise function of the feature of the Teams function so that I can call on you in the order that it's received. Okay. I'm also going to keep the recording going post the presentation. I don't keep that in any of the recordings that I post onto YouTube, and I just use it because it's easier for me to kind of go back and reference the questions that were asked and if I need to follow up with anybody. So, and as always, so that wraps it up. So as always, thank you for attending, and let's go ahead and dive into report field attributes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch on over to the analytics portion of our product. We will be covering both engines, so keep that in mind. I will kind of be going through both because they do have some differences. There are some similarities, but there are also a significant amount of differences. And some of it has been cleaned up. We have cleaned up some of the attributes going into the new engine as we found some of them needed to be deprecated or they didn't really apply to the reporting much anymore. But let's go ahead and start out with just going into the analytics portion and talking about a few common attributes of fields. So where I'm going to go is we're going to go ahead and select report templates. From here, I'm going to go, and I'm just going to go into one of the new templates. And depending on, like I said, depending on your system, depending on what you have installed, depending on what you're licensed for, you may not see all these reports, and that's fine. You may only currently see call record search, and that could be very well the case if you do not have our queues. Queue Analytics portion of the product, and that's fine. You can still run a call record search in the new engine on your data, and it'll be fine. But let's go ahead and go into call record search, and we'll start out with some fields that pop up here. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and you'll see here, there's attributes for every field. So if I added in, say, call hour, you'll see it pop up. You'll see that every field has an attribute that you can change. And that just gives you more flexibility as to what data is going to be or how the data is presented, or maybe there's some different changes that you might see in the data that's presented. So let's look at data source name. So data source name would be like if you have multiple data sources and you want to be able to identify which one, you can see that in the report. And for here, you can click on attribute and you can say, right now, the changes that you can make are the name. So right now, the column name would just be data source name. If you wanted to change that to just be data source, you could do that. If you wanted to say source name, whatever it is you wanted to rename it to, you could. Okay. Um, from there, we also have sort. So right now, the report would not sort on data source, which is pretty common. The sorting on most of them are going to be like date and time, possibly even duration, depending on what you're doing. So if I clicked on date, you'll see here that the sorting is ascending on the date column. And then you have alignment. Because all of these reports are going to be Excel or CSV, so you're going to see them show up as alignment left. You can see them show as alignment center or alignment right? So you can align in the Excel documents how you want the data to show up in those, okay? Now, you'll see that those were the three that are available in like data source and date, but that's not always the case. And so in customized call record search, you can pull up other ones. And the ones that I know that are unique in this particular report are the directory fields. The majority of these all have the standard sort and alignment, but in directory, that does change. So if I add it in, because this directory has two hierarchy levels, department and company, if I were to add those columns to the end, and then we go ahead and scroll on down to the end, there you are, bar. You'll see here that I can change the attribute here, and we have a new one, show on report. And the show on report shows either the name or the code. So what this represents is if you have a directory where you have department and department codes, maybe in this report you'd really like to only see the department code. And so you could change the way that this report displays department information by saying, show me only code. And what you'll see here is a little black dot appear on any attribute that you do make changes outside of the standard setting, okay? Oh, I see a hand raise. Why don't you go ahead and put that in the Q&A, and Veronica will let me know what that question is, and I'll go in and answer that here in a minute. Veronica, let me know when that question comes through, if you don't mind. And so that covers the customer, like the call record search. That, in that sense, these are really the department level attributes are the only ones that are changeable in this particular report. Okay. Now, just keep an eye on everybody. Let's go ahead and jump out because I really want to talk about some of the changes that you might see in our queue reporting. So again, if you go into the new templates and you go into, say like, we're going to go into the agent detail report, because right now, attributes or fields are only applicable right now in detail level reports in the new engine. All the summary reports are kind of hard coded with the fields already presented. You don't have the ability to change them at all. But if I go into the agent detail portion, you can definitely see that there's a lot more attribute changes that you can do here. One of them I noticed right away, if I go to the group by, let's get rid of agent for a moment and let's add agent as a column. And so I'll go ahead and add agent.
Adam, actually, Dean's question was, is there a
Uh,
way to show both the name and the code?
no, not yet. I see that. I was thinking about that earlier as well. I was like, I see there's name and there's code. The only thing well, actually, I lie. That now that you said that, I was like, no, there's not in. Let me go back. Now that there's not in the way in a single column, but what you could do is just add the field twice. So if I go down to directory, I should be able to add, say, like department in once, department, oh, you know what? In Classic, you could add it twice, but in New Engine, you cannot. So again, I lied again. So no, the answer to the question is no. You can do one or the other, but not both. And you can't add a department or the same column in twice. So actually, you know what? I will take note of that because I think that is an interesting fact that you have brought up. Because they made it so that you can't add more than one field, but also those options, somebody might want to see both the name and the code. So good question. I appreciate that. And I will definitely be taking that feedback and taking it where it needs to go. So back to agent detail. and I was in the middle of removing agent and then adding agent as a column, because there's more options that'll show up if you add agent in as a column rather than a group by. So if I add agent here, we go into attributes. You're going to see here that, again, you're going to see a lot of the same features of changing the column name, the sorting of that, as well as the alignment. But you also have the ability to change, since you're building this as this is a queue level report. Maybe instead of showing the agent name, which you may not want to show for some reason, you would show instead like maybe the UPN. Or maybe just a type. So maybe depending on the agent, what type of, there's a type when it comes to agent. Same thing when it comes to caller. That's another one. So like if it's an inbound or an outbound, if it's an external party calling in, do you want to show the phone number, or would you want to just show the type? So that would just say inbound, or maybe that's external. Sorry, if it's an internal, you can also show type or UPN or the name. So you have the options depending on the direction of where that call is coming from. So it's an external party or it's an internal party. How do you want in the color field to show up? So maybe for privacy in this report, you may not want to show specifically the names of those. Okay. Same with a lot of the destinations and source fields. So for example, if I click on, I think it's destination here, you also can say if you want to see the destination, the external, so if it's an outbound call, destination, do you want to see the phone number that's being dialed, or do you want to see just a type? So it's local or long distance, maybe it's international or toll free. Internal party, so destination, so it's an internal call, and who it's calling to. Do you want to see the name, the UPN, or the types? And so that's what I've seen so far when it comes to the attributes. But I definitely recommend, when building your report, to check these out. Click on the attribute field and see what is available, to see if there's something that might make a little bit more sense. Okay. And then as we start building out more reports, if we add some additional summary style reports that you have more customization, I'm sure there's going to be additional attributes for you to check out. Okay. And so that kind of covers the new engine and the attributes. Like I said, they are only in the detail level reports currently. So if I went into agent summary by disposition, we don't really have a fields report. You don't have the option to really change any of that. So you wouldn't be able to do that. It would just be primarily in the detail level reports. Okay. All right. So that kind of talks about our analytics engine. Let's jump over to Classic, which in my opinion, there are a lot more attributes in Classic. Some of them, like I said, are kind of deprecated. They are not really utilized much anymore, and that's why we're not seeing them in the new reporting engine. But if we see a need, we always have the option to bring those back. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is jump up to reporting. We are going to go to reports, and I'm going to go to open template. Now, when it comes to the, oh, you know what? I meant to show you some examples, and I guess I could go back there in a minute and show you, like I meant to actually run a report with some of those changes, and I did not. I will do that in a moment. So when it comes to Classic, there are a lot more detail and summary style reports. And so I'm going to go ahead and start out with our detail level call record search, which I think is a bread and butter report that almost everybody that's used our product has probably utilized at one point or another. And from here, you can see that there's, again, same concept, just fields and attributes for those fields. But you're going to see a lot of the same things. So if I click on data source and I click on attributes, you're going to see the name, so the column header. You're going to see the sorting, and you're going to see the justification of that data. But you're going to see here also width. You're going to see a width in almost every single one of the fields here in Classic. And the reason for that is that our Classic product would export to PDF. And PDF had a limit on really how many how many characters can fit on a page. And so when you were aligning this, you might want to say, well, I need this to be specifically just 35 characters or longer or less, or maybe 10 characters or less, whatever, so that it would word wrap some of those so that it would fit onto one page. We don't do PDFs in the new engine. It's all Excel to make things a lot easier because the widths kind of got a little messy when it dealt with PDFs because you could only fit so much on a PDF. So that's why this is present here, but not present in the new engine. But width does matter if you're trying to export to a PDF. If you're not doing a PDF, you're fine. Excels can kind of just make the width work for themselves. Okay. So data source doesn't really have anything unique, but there are some that I like to call out when I'm doing trainings on something like the classic engine. And let me pull up my notes because I had some of them written down. Call type, absolutely, 100%. Call type is one that I always bring up as an attribute that I like to change for almost every report I run in Classic. Why? Well, let's take a look. If you click on attributes, yes, you have all the standards, the sorting, the name, the width, the justification, but we have this handy dandy display full name or abbreviation. And so let me show you an example of that. So again, I know I was going to do that earlier, and I apologize. I will come back. So if I run this as an HTML and I leave this without making any changes, you're going to see the call type show up here. And I know it's kind of small. I'll zoom in a little bit. You're going to see the call type show up as an abbreviated call type. Now, for many of us who've used our product for a long time, we know that IMB stands for inbound. We know that LCL stands for local and internal place and so forth. You're going to see all that, okay? Maybe your end users do not. And so I don't like having to answer questions after sending a report about what the data means. I think the report should be enough for people to say, I understand exactly what this means. So what do? We change the attributes, specifically call type. We change that from an abbreviation to a full name, okay? And then we rerun this same report. And guess what? We're going to see that fully spelled out. So it would say inbound, it would say local, it would say internal P. Now I know it doesn't say placed, but that's kind of a long name, but internal placed or internal received, and if you had any long distance and so forth. So you would see all those call types spelled out. And you can see here also that the little black dot shows up for those, right? Other ones that I like to call out, especially if I'm building out specific type reports, is maybe I want the call month to be on the report as a part of it. Like, I have the date and the call month, or call month and date. Call month, and if you use like a date modifier or date field in here, it does give you some options to change how the format shows up. So again, if it's it's going to show you probably the 2-digit call month. So if I were to run this again, we're going to see, 11 here in this column for call month. If I were to come out and change this, which I do often, I like to show maybe the year and the month as a 3-letter abbreviation instead of digits. And if I rerun that again, we would see that. So we would see call month of 2025 and November, right? So November 2025. So we're seeing that showing up as words and numbers, right? So you have the ability to change kind of based on the attributes what is being displayed in the report. And many of the fields would have some changes. Some of them are just going to be your standard output name, sort, width, and justification. Okay. Now, where it gets really tricky, or not tricky is the word, but like where you have a lot more options when it comes to attributes are going to be your summary style reports. Now, in Classic, the summary reports do have designer reports, which means you have control over what is being displayed. So I'm going to go into a Classic. We're going to do an organizational summary call traffic report. I like this one because it kind of gives you a breakdown of the different call types, durations, and then if you're using costing. For this one, I'm just going to group it on a person. So it'll group on each individual person. So if I come into fields, you can see company, department, and then you can see name, right? And you can see here that it has the name, total count, total duration, total cost, and then it starts to break down the different call types. So inbound, local, long distance, and then there's other, which is companies. It encompasses all of the other types that are not broken out specifically. But if I were to go and add in count as a field, which is pretty much what these are that have already been defined. And I added duration, which again has already been added in this report, inbound duration, total duration. If you were to go into the attributes for these, so let's go here, this is where they were hand created, or this is where they were modified to break down the totals or the individuals, right? So right now, call type of all is your total, like total. So this is count. This would be the same as total count. I know it's just count here, but it is actually at this point a total count because we are going to do a total count of all the call types, which is going to be everything. If we wanted to do something that wasn't defined, which I know in here we did not have internal defined, then we could come in here and say, oh, I want to see all the internals counted together in its own category. And by making this change in call type, that is what we're doing. And then from here, you have some options. Now, when it comes to certain systems, termination of the call, whether it was landline or mobile, I know that's more prevalent in more like the non-US phone systems. I see this more in the European phone systems that this is important. I know it does exist in the US, but like not as prevalent. Media type, if you just want to specifically voice and not everything. Also not utilized too much these days. Both of these I don't see many people asking a lot of questions on. They want just standard calls. But you do get the ability to show a percentage of, rather than showing like just the total count, you could say, give me a subtotal, grand total, or row total percentage. Okay, otherwise everything else primarily stays the same. And so you would say, okay, and then this would be, oh, and we obviously probably want to change to say internal count, and that's what this would give us. Same thing with duration. If we went into this, you still have to define what you want to see the duration on. Right now, it is technically a total duration metric because we haven't changed this. So if I wanted to make this an internal total duration, so internal duration, again, landline, mobile, the media types. But this one also gives you the field, you can do a sum of the duration, an average duration, a minimum duration, or a maximum duration. So this is kind of where if you were to add durations in and add more of them, you could say this could be max internal duration. You could add max here. You change this to internal, and there you go. Now you have the internal duration and max internal duration. And you're just adding those, you're changing the attributes, it's showing you that you're doing so. And that's kind of what the idea of attributes is supposed to provide to you. It's a way of manipulating the data to kind of show you the information in a lot of different ways, right? And so that's why it's kind of important to go into all of these. The help section does have some of the attributes listed out in the field definitions. It will kind of break them all down, but I've noticed that I looked at it that not all of them are. So again, it's pretty common to be like, let's go ahead and check out the attribute of, say, like a field to see what is available. And like I said, in Classic, you have the ability to kind of add and remove a field if the fields portion is a part of it. Okay. And so as I promised earlier, I know I've got time. So let's go ahead and go back to our analytics product. Let's go ahead and go into a template. Let's go ahead and go into Microsoft Teams agent detail. I was meant to show you what it looked like. What I'm going to do to make sure is I'm going to go ahead and add an agent into this report. So to filter this out a little bit easier, and we're going to add the 3 agents. We're going to go ahead and go to fields. We're going to leave this as is. We're going to go ahead, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll leave it as, no, you know what? I'm going to take that agent out of here. We'll add agent here is a column so that it doesn't break it down. And then we're just going to run it for, I don't know, let's do it for 3 days. I think I have data for 3 days. I might have to do longer. We'll see. No, we've got data. Okay. So you're going to see here that Isaac has taken calls. He is the agent. He is also technically the caller. He's done outbound calls. You see like the phone number as the destination. Let's go ahead and go back to the report. Let's change the attribute from, since we know that this one is a internal party and it's showing his name, maybe we do his UPN instead. Maybe for the call destination, instead of it being the phone number, let's do type rather than the actual number. So now if we rerun this report for the last 3 days, you're going to see those changes and I can switch between the two. Here's his UPN. So since it seems it's going to be his full email address. And then because it's since it's an actual phone call, you're going to see its external party as the type rather than the actual phone number. So that's what I'm saying. You have the ability to kind of change the data just by, clicking on the attributes and making those changes. Okay. So I think this is just a few of the attribute changes you can find in our reporting. That's why I think it's very important to review them when we're building your reports to familiarize yourself with these features to get most out of your reporting. So if you have a better understanding of the options available, it'll help you utilize the reports to the maximum potential.